already? Yeah, great. Good morning, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Alex Collis and I am the Deputy Mayor. I'd like to welcome members and the public to this annual council meeting of Cambridge City Council. For the benefit of everyone present, because we have lots of new members in the room, when you speak for the first time, if you say who you are, please, we have new councillors and members of the public watching online, so that would be appreciated. Thank you. We've got some housekeeping announcements first, and I'm going to ask Gary Clift to explain those to us now.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for your patience in this new venue, the first council gig in the Corn Exchange history, probably. So we're not expecting a fire alarm. If the alarm does go off, we all go out to your right-hand side fire exits there. Those doors will open as well. Please leave your possessions where they are, and we congregate on Guildhall Place near Yo Sushi. The loos, so ladies' loos are to your right-hand side and then downstairs, and it's a one-way system. So you follow the signs and then come back out on the door on the far right, just there. The gents' loos are on the first floor, so you go out through the foyer and up to the first floor and then follow the signs round. And then the disabled toilet is through the ground floor, through the doors, the main exit doors on your right-hand side. The microphones will come on as soon as you walk to the microphone. You don't have to touch anything. You only just have to adjust the height by squeezing the neck that the actual microphone is resting in to change the height. Information packs are on the left-hand side as you're looking back as you came in. When we leave, when the meeting actually finishes, if we could all go from your right-hand side into Parsons Court rather than the front door, we're just going out that way. Thank you very much.
Is that everything, Gary?
Yep, thank you.
Lovely, thank you. The council is live streaming this meeting on our YouTube feed, and the link is on the council agenda webpage. I should also say there is an induction loop in this room for anyone who needs it. I'm now going to ask the Mayor's Chaplain, Reverend Karen Voth-Harmon, to open the meeting.
Hello everyone, I'm Karen Voth-Harmon, the Vicar in Cherry Hinton, and I'm starting another exciting year as Mayor's Chaplain. And you know, it's impossible to speak on behalf of a community as diverse and divided and opinionated as the City of Cambridge, but I really want to take this opportunity to thank you on behalf of the people of Cambridge, because you, I know, have been working so hard to get us through the COVID pandemic and you know, all the problems that have gone along with that. And I've been just overwhelmed, actually, and very impressed by the way that so many of you city councillors have brought food and brought comfort and brought vaccinations, testing, community spirit to the places which you represent and the people you represent. We are all very grateful. So really thank you very sincerely for all that you've done through this past year. And I know, I expect many of you are really exhausted now as you go into this next period of recovery, which probably will be even trickier and certainly more fractious. So as you come together as a newly constituted City Council, as you face up to the responsibilities of the year ahead, I want to assure you that people of faith are praying that you will find strength and grace and good humor to get through all that lies ahead of you. And I also want to end now by blessing you in words that have come down to us from the time of Moses. So a blessing for this City Council. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord be gracious to you. May he shine his face upon you and give you great peace. Amen.
Thank you very much, Karen. Okay, so for agenda item 1, I call for nominations for the office of Mayor for the ensuing municipal year. Thank you, Councillor Thornborough.
Madam Deputy Mayor, I'd like to propose Russ Macpherson for the role of Mayor. Russ is a really kind, generous person. He has done so much for the city already in this last year of the pandemic where we were really restricted, but I know that what he did do was really appreciated. This coming year, with the opening up, he will really be able to excel in the role as Mayor, and his charities will really benefit. But today is one of the first days that I've been in a room with so many people, and I'm a bit anxious, but I know that this is one of the safest places to be in the whole of Cambridge, because Russ Macpherson is the first responder who trains first responders. So this is really the safest place to be in Cambridge. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thornborough. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Porrer. Yes, so Councillor Porrer has indicated that she will second the nomination. Do we have any other nominations? No, great. So it gives me great pleasure then to say that I declare Councillor Macpherson Mayor of the City of Cambridge for the ensuing municipal year 2021-22. And he's going to appear from the wings now.
Thank you, everyone. That was kind of you. The first time I've had a round of applause without playing a note.
So the Mayor's going to make the declaration, acceptance of office in front of the Chief Executive.
I, Russ Macpherson, having been elected to the office of Mayor of City of Cambridge, declare that I take the office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. It's very quiet in here, isn't it? I've got a few words to say, but I know that we're going to do our very best to make this as short a meeting as possible. So the few words I've got in front of me should be completed by 12:20, if that's okay. Or maybe not. I do have a number of people to thank today, though. Those colleagues who elected me as Mayor for a second consecutive term. And while it's not unprecedented in the history of the mayoralty, I fully acknowledge it's quite exceptional in recent times. And I'm genuinely and truly humbled by the faith placed in me by members in upholding this historic office. Also, of course, my proposer, Katie, and seconders for their kind words. And not to forget the people of Cherry Hinton who elected me in the first place, or I wouldn't be sitting here. Thank you too to my wife Carol, who's sitting at the back there somewhere. Councillors and civic colleagues for the support that you've all given me in what has been an extraordinary year for us all. But I'm confident that we'll continue to provide that support in my second term as Mayor of Cambridge. And I do think, because it is exceptional, I would like to say that I do pledge my energy and effort to achieve a successful year supporting those civic offices of the council and, most importantly, the communities of Cambridge, following the most challenging of years for our great city and all the cities, towns and villages across the globe. I will also endeavour to uphold the constitution and procedures of the council fairly, treating all members respectfully and equally, and will be enthusiastic in asking all members in this chamber to join with me in treating each other with respect, understanding and kindness, and extending that extra help and support to all of our newly elected members to ensure that they feel supported and valued. I will endeavour to discharge my duties and commitments professionally and without favour, whether it is by chairing meetings in this chamber or that chamber across the road, or whether it is visiting and speaking at community events. Undoubtedly, it will be to emulate success and dedication to this role of my predecessors, some of whom are in this chamber right now, and by following their example and being an ambassador for this council and all the good that it does and my predecessors in this room now have done and have striven to do. It gives me great pleasure to extend for a further year the appointments of Reverend Karen von Hartmann, who you've just heard from, and Reverend Ruth Barry, who is not here today, both from St Andrew's Church, Cherry Hinton, as my chaplains. I look forward to them attending future council meetings and thank them for their wise counsel and friendship over the past years. My cadets, Corporal Georgia Pescod from 104 Squadron ATC, City of Cambridge, Corporal Matt Sayers from St John Ambulance, City of Cambridge Division, and Marine Cadet Max Lubell from the City of Cambridge Sea Cadets have also kindly agreed to remain for the forthcoming year. And Carol and I sincerely hope it will be a more fulfilling mayoral year for these excellent young people than last year was. But unfortunately on this occasion, due to the current continuing restrictions, they're unable to attend. But we look forward to introducing to the members as soon as that is allowed and welcome them to future events. Although there are so many worthy organisations in Cambridge, I will be continuing to support Serve and Magpass as my charities for the municipal year. I'll also be supporting in any way I can the work of my fellow community first responder volunteers who work hand in hand with the East of England Ambulance Service. Since 2011, the volunteers of Serve, Suffolk and Cambridgeshire, also better known as the Blood Bikes, have been providing a free, essential service to our NHS hospitals, air ambulance services, hospices, pharmacies, human donor milk banks, by transporting blood products and blood samples, medicine, medical equipment, etc., all in their own time, riding their own machines, paying their own costs. They cover a full 24-hour wide coverage in all weathers, saving the NHS thousands of pounds in transport costs and cutting down the time critically needed emergency supplies take to reach patients. And that can be life-saving. Magpass Air Ambulance, probably better known than Serve is, but we hope to raise Serve's profile even more. But the Magpass Ambulance Service, established in 1971, is an emergency medical charity that provides pre-hospital emergency and critical care in the air, on land, including treatments normally only available in hospitals, which have enabled them to save countless lives. I've had the pleasure to be associated with Magpass for well over 20 years, and indeed I received first-class training many years ago as a community first responder from the Magpass team, skills which I still use today. Both organisations have been heavily involved in assisting and supporting the NHS throughout the pandemic, so Carol and I will work as hard as we can to continue to raise as much funds and profile for these fabulous charities as we can. As a last thought, following in the wake of this past extraordinary year, I would like us all to remember and hold in our hearts those who have been most affected by these difficult times, those who have lost loved ones, those whose lives have been forever altered by this pandemic, and some of those are fellow elected members and officers of this council and are in this room. Those who in their everyday working lives strive to protect and save the lives of others from illness and tragedy, often at great risk to themselves. These are some of the reasons this mayoral year will be focused on those emergency services that we are all so reliant on and sometimes take for granted. They will be there when they are most needed. My charities of Serve and Magpass and the focus on my fellow community first responders through the ambulance service, all being in the front line on a daily basis, are just some of those services. So I ask for your help in supporting these everyday heroes in whatever way we can, in whatever way you can, in the coming year. Thank you very much. I now call for nominations for the appointment of Deputy Mayor. Councillor Dryden, I believe. Councillor Herbert, I was just going to do it myself.
If Councillor Dryden isn't here, then Mayor, I would like to nominate Councillor Mark Ashton for Deputy Mayor.
Okay, thank you for that. I was just going to do that myself if Councillor Dryden had stepped out. So, do we have a seconder? I can see a hand, but I can't see who it is. Oh, sorry. It's the lights as well as the mask. Sorry, I couldn't see. Councillor Pagecroft was second. Are there any other nominations? I would just like to say that at this point that Councillor Ashton has been a fellow councillor of mine in Cherry Hinton for many years, and I think he'll make an excellent Deputy Mayor. And I know we're cutting down speeches, but I didn't want that moment to pass without wholeheartedly supporting him for the appointment of Deputy Mayor. So I'd just like that to be placed on record. I therefore declare Councillor Ashton Deputy Mayor of the City of Cambridge for the ensuing municipal year.
So Councillor Ashton will make the declaration of acceptance of office in front of the Chief Executive.
I, Mark William Ashton, having been elected to the office of Deputy Mayor of Cambridge City Council, declare that I take the office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability.
They've got signed up. That's a small medal for the Deputy Mayor's wife as well. So nothing personal, they're not going to be strangled by 2 medals. We always don't need a microphone, do we?
Okay. Is the mic still on? Yep. I just want to say thank you very much for trusting me with this position. The story began on the 8th of August 1951, but that's too many years back now to tell you the ups and downs in between, and there have been ups and downs in between. I've suffered meningitis, I've suffered colon cancer, but amongst all this, my long-standing wife, Barbara, has been with me for 49 years this year, and without Barbara's support, I wouldn't be standing here today, so thank you.
Well, there was a time when we thought team meetings were strange, wasn't there? But now it's the live audiences that are strange, isn't it? So we're going to move to agenda item 3, confirmation of minutes. May I approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting of the Council held on the 25th of February and 1st of March 2021. Copy of the minutes can be found in the agenda starting on page 7. Everybody happy? Lovely. Thank you so much. Don't be scared. I know it's echoey, but... Thanks. Agenda item 4. Will the Council note the report of returning officer detailed on page 51-52 of the agenda? I would like to warmly welcome new councillors who won seats at the local election held on the 6th of May. And there are a number of them, I was pleased to see. They are Councillors Sarah Bagent, Councillor Bennett, Bond, Copley, Cox, Sam Davis, Flaubert, Gawthrop Wood, Gilderdale, Healy, Hawke, Lee, Pounds, Scutt, Simon Smith and Councillor Sweeney. So welcome to you all. I think you deserve a round of applause for your first time here. So please, we could meet face to face for the first time. And welcome back and congratulations to all of us who were re-elected. And I think we'll do that again. But I would also like to place on record thanks to those former councillors who chose not to stand on the 6th of May, and we must remember and always recall the vast amount of work and contributions they've given to this city over their years. There are also those who are not successful in re-election, and we sincerely do thank them for their considerable contributions to this council, namely former councillors, Councillor Johnson, Massey, Martinelli and Matthews. And perhaps we'll see them in this chamber again at some time. We now turn to item 5 of the agenda, Mayor's announcements. Apologies have been received from Councillors McQueen, Payne, Sargent, Anna Smith and Mike Todd-Jones. Are there any other further apologies? Okay, thank you very much. I'd just also like to mention, I don't think it's my notes here, but I'd just like to mention on Sunday the Mott service at the Trinity Church on Sunday. If any of you are planning to go to that, I think it's 9:30 Sunday? Yeah. Okay, just to, if you were planning, just to check with Gary first to make sure that numbers can be accommodated. Thank you. The signing book will pass around the room during this meeting for members to sign the declaration. Hard copy of the declaration that you made in front of one of the proper officers of the council earlier, because we had to do it online, didn't we? Couldn't sign the book. An instruction sheet is in the book to instruct what you have to complete. Please don't date it. Officers will complete that. So just having made the declaration online, we now need to sign the book. So that's just going to pass around the room, basically. I would like to ask any members to declare now any interest in the items on the agenda before us. But I'm sure, as most of us know, but for the benefit of new councillors, if you find that any item crops up during the course of the meeting that you feel you would like to declare an interest, that's absolutely fine. You can do that as the meeting progresses. Are there any declarations of interest? At this time, I should say. Okay, thank you very much. Finally, I think, as I said at the beginning, if I could ask all members to be concise with their contributions and stick to the point where we can, especially today, and I know that you'll be showing respect to your fellow councillors. I know that. I'll ring the bell when you have half a minute left, and then again when the time is up. Thank you very much. That takes us to item 6, election of bailiffs. I have nominations to fill in 4 vacancies for bailiffs, and the names that we have are Councillors Dryden, Goering, Pagecroft and Pounds. Does the council agree these appointments? Lovely, thank you so much. Agenda item 7, to consider the recommendations of adoption, executive for adoption. We now turn to item 7 of the agenda, recommendations of the Executive Council for Open Spaces, Sustainable Foods and Community Wellbeing, which can be found on page 11 of the information pack. Councillor Collis, do you wish to introduce this item?
I will be very brief. I'm delighted to ask Council to approve the recommendations for the 2 vacant City Councillor appointments to this important role of Conservatives of the River Cam, Councillor Katie Thornborough and Councillor Alan Cox. I also ask Council to note the continued appointment of Councillor Mike Sargent to the 3rd City Councillor seat.
Is there any debate on this item? So I'm just struggling a lot of papers here. Sorry? Yeah. Well, Councillor Collis does have a right to reply, but there's not a lot of point if nobody said anything, is there? However, do you wish to speak again? Excellent. Thank you. I'll now go to the vote. Please can I see those in favour of the recommendation? Are there any against? No abstentions. Sorry, it's just a bit hard to see, so I'm going to call that out. Are there any abstentions? Okay, thank you. It's just hard to see past these stage lights, that's all. Agenda item 8. The Council is required to appoint a leader. Article 7.3 of the Constitution states, the leader will be a councillor elected to the position by the Council and will remain as leader until the day of the annual meeting of the Council in the year of the term of office ends, or until death or disqualification, resignation from office, or removal from office by resolution of the Council. I therefore call for nominations for the office of Leader of the Council. Oh, sorry, Councillor Smart.
Is it working? Yeah. I'm Councillor Smart. I'd like to nominate Lewis Herbert. I propose Lewis Herbert for the leader of Cambridge City Council. Lewis is an excellent leader for the city. He's a dedicated public servant and does well for the city. He's good at partnership working, so important with other neighbouring authorities and organisations. With the new leadership in place in both the County Council and Cambridge and Peterborough and Mayoralty, this is a real opportunity for the residents of Cambridge and its environs. I'm sure Lewis will be able to work well with those other elected leaders to the benefit of the residents of Cambridge. Please elect Lewis Herbert.
Thank you, Councillor Smart. Are there any other nominations? Thank you very much. I therefore declare Councillor Herbert Leader of the Council. Katie. Sorry, Katie. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, you'd like to second that. Did I not call for a second? No, I didn't. But it was very kind of you to offer. Councillor Herbert, you are once more in charge. Agenda item 9, to consider recommendation of committees for adoption. Item 9A, appointments of committees for 2021-22. Is the Council content to approve the appointments of committees as set out on pages 53 and 56 and as updated in the information pack on pages 13 to 16? Please note Councillor Healy should be listed as the Lead Councillor for Health and Wellbeing and Councillor Sargent, Lead Councillor Public Transport on page 7. Is there any debate on this item? Okay. Councillor Davey, do you wish to speak? Okay, thank you very much. I'll now go to the vote in that case. Please can I see those in favour of the recommendations? I think that's everyone, Gary.
Okay. Yep.
But I will say, any against? Are there any against those recommendations? Thank you very much. Any abstentions? Thank you so much. Nominations of chairs and vice chairs. We now turn to the appointments of chairs and vice chairs for 2021-22. The nominations are included on page 57-58 of your agenda pack. Is there any debate on this item? Councillor David, do you wish to speak? Thank you very much. Does the council approve these nominations? Any? Those against? And any abstentions? Thank you so much. Agenda item 10. We turn to the annual statement. Under Council Procedures Rule 3.2.1, I call on Councillor Herbert to speak for no more than 5 minutes on the Labour Group's priorities for action and objectives for the forthcoming municipal year. Following this, I will call on Councillor Bick for the Liberal Democrat Group and Councillor Bennett for the Green and Independent Group. Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm glad to see you leading the council in the ribbon cutting and smiling department for the next year, assisted by Mark Ashton as your deputy. As you know, it has been an extraordinary year, and thanks to an extraordinary government, and I do regret that Dominic Cummings didn't have time to talk about virtual meetings yesterday, but this is one of the strangest and stupidest decisions that the government has taken. And I'm sorry that we can't actually have a virtual meeting, but I do thank everybody for being here in what looks like a well-run examination hall. So thank you, Mayor, and I do also want to welcome the 16 new councillors that join us and who you named, 8 Labour, 5 Lib Dem, 2 Green and 1 Independent. We were in opposition once. I remember being an individual councillor in different environments, and it is important that every councillor is recognised and has rights both to pursue issues for their ward, but also to pursue wider issues for the city. So, as I said on the after the election count, it is important that we listen. And whilst we have a clear policy programme, and we were very open about that during the election, we are here to listen. And it has been a product of the way we conduct our business that whilst some of the ways we do things are strange and sometimes archaic, our scrutiny process does give opposition, and it gives other individual members the opportunity to influence this world for the better. We are a very lucky group of councillors. We have a wonderful city. We are in this amazing building, which used to be a trading hall, but which is our central council entertainment venue. Sadly, for those watching, there isn't a great deal of entertainment today, but it's important that we hold our meeting. So, in terms of our policy programme, it's there on our Labour site. Our manifesto of 15 pages goes into considerable detail, and it builds, Mayor, on the annual statement, which was part of our budget, which was adopted back in February. And it's quite clear. We are determined as a city, which is one that creates significant wealth, that is redistributed, and that we stand up for the disadvantaged parts of our city and those that suffer inequality. There is gross inequality in this city, and there is also wealth. And we've seen through the pandemic just how important, as the chaplain mentioned, that support has been, and we've suffered and people have suffered significant isolation and mental health. But we have seen that mutual aid really come to a magnificent ability to support people, and we want to continue to see that happen. We've seen the effort of councillors, of chefs, of hundreds of people through the food hubs that have been created, actually getting to the people that need it most, families in real poverty. So that work will continue, as will our work on council house building and wider affordable housing and the support for homeless people. If people want to, as a pattern of life, to choose to live rough and to be intense or live as they may choose, that is their right. But we have not, as a city, in the past, given sufficient support or opportunities. And I just know that the pods that have been built in King's Hedges and East Chesterton and in Abbey, and the partnerships with It Takes a City and with Winter Comfort and so many organisations have a vital role to play. And we will continue that work, even if government rats on us and doesn't give us the funding that they've been giving us here and there. So it is a commitment that everybody who's homeless will have a place to stay, and also we will support where we can their future opportunities. On climate change, which there is a motion about later, whatever we discuss on that motion doesn't take away from the fact that as a city council, we are committed to being a zero carbon council by 2030. A lot of the issues are national issues. A lot of the issues require the government of the day to take action. We need to have fuel-efficient homes, a shift from gas. We need to have different transport. We need to have sustainable food. We need a government that faces up to it rather than goes for headlines. And we are determined as a city to work in partnership and involve everybody. Everybody in this city, every organisation creates emissions, and everybody has to play their part. And I do want us as a council to work together on that and focus on Cambridge. And finally, we have, I believe, and we haven't oversold ourselves, we have reused and reinvested in this city, in part as part of the council housing programme, in projects like Park Street Car Park, in future projects, because we know we have to raise more money, because government gives us, well, I could say a be-all, but I will say they gave us nothing in terms of funding. And so, Mayor, we have marshalled the finances of this city, and we will continue to do that. But we will have to change as a council. And if that's my time up, then I thank you all for listening. We will be working together to deliver, and I hope to get an opportunity later to briefly say why partnership working is essential. And the disappearance of Mayor Palmer from this county is to the good of everybody. Thank you.
Okay, I'll call on Councillor Bick to make his statement. Councillor Bick, you've got 6.4 minutes. That's what the leader had, so...
Okay. Thank you, Mr Mayor. First of all, from me, some shout-outs. Congratulations to you, Councillor Macpherson, on your reappointment as Mayor. And I'd like to add my welcome to all the councillors who got elected for the first time earlier this month, especially the 5 in my own group. And this is really an infusion of new voices for the council. I think we should make the most of the regenerative effect that has on what we do and how we act. I'd like to add my commiserations to those who, despite working very hard on it, failed to get elected on May the 6th, including those who, as you say, were former members of the council. And finally, I'd like to say a thank you for the contribution of those former members who didn't re-stand after dedicating time and service to their residents and participating in the public interest of the city. Despite the ineptitude of the government, which Councillor Herbert has referred to, I'd like to say that it is quite good to be back in the same room as everyone today, even though that's not absolutely all of us, and that's a great shame. It is a very large room, seeing to the back is quite a long way, and we're trying to make the meeting short, and lots of things are less than ideal. But it is refreshing after a year of looking into screens to see people. And hopefully that's a tentative step back towards what we know works best in the long run. And I'd like to say a thank you to the officers who've made what they can of the arrangements today.
Yeah, absolutely.
The election that we've had leaves Councillor Herbert and the Labour group in charge of the City Council still. Though that's obviously a disappointment to us on our side, we will be using our role as the principal opposition party here to bring our residents' priorities to the table, to hold the administration to account and to influence and improve decisions. There is now a radically changed political landscape around us, in much of which my party has been instrumental, both in securing the decisive gains enabling Councillor Nethsinger and her colleagues to form a new joint administration taking control of the County Council, and through Liberal Democrat voters' second preferences electing the new Mayor Johnson. We hope on our side that this will open up a less divisive, a more enabling mood for us as a council to work together with others on a wide range of subjects important to Cambridge, which haven't received the attention they deserve. And that includes the still bleak outlook on rough sleeping, the still absent overarching plan to fund public transport and reduce car use, and in the public realm management of the city, which a city like ours really needs, including our initiative for making space for people. Within this council, we will be developing some of our priorities. First, a thoroughgoing translation of the proud climate emergency declaration, which we brought to this council, into a tangible, embedded plan with fewer U-turns and banana skins than we've experienced over the last few years. There remain gaping questions about how our housing and our commercial property estate will meet the aspiration, and our leadership is badly needed on that. And secondly, progress on our new local plan and area action plan, which recognises that to be an inclusive city that we all want and a sustainable city that we all want, we must both meet the housing need and act within the constraints of our environment and our natural resources. This includes giving a priority to the provision of generous open space, which has not so far been so evident, as well as all of the ingredients that make for community building. And third, a placemaking approach for the future of our city centre, to look strategically at how we can coordinate the reshaping into a new world of increased internet shopping, and allow our city centre to retain its role as a social crossroads and a forum for the wider city and the area beyond, and serving our residents. We are also looking for a reset in the confrontational way improvements to the market square are currently being developed. And fourthly, a big turnaround in council delivery. The council's performance, for example, on housing repairs and on processing planning applications is awful. And these are two enormous areas of council activity and investment. After 7 years of an anti-poverty direction for this council, which I think we all share the goals of, it's not clear whether anyone is actually measuring its impact in terms of poverty, which surely is necessary if that's our goal. A dramatic improvement is needed in these respects. The council needs to focus on results, not just activity and the money it spends. So looking forward, Mr. Mayor, these are the areas of focus for the Liberal Democrat group for the next year. In these and other respects, we seek to make this a productive year of progress for the people of Cambridge. Thank you.
Very much. Councillor Bennett. Welcome to the microphone for the first time.
It is indeed. Now, I offered to make a written statement in lieu of the speech to allow more time for the climate motion. So before I start, Would people like to turn to page 17 of a public information pack, which contains that statement? And I am prepared to take an informal show of hands between people who would like to take 5 minutes to read the speech peacefully and people who would like me to state it. So, for reading...
Sorry, can you just direct to the microphone, although your voice is lost, I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's better, thank you.
So, people who would like to read the speech, page 17, and not have me speak it, please raise your hand.
I think it probably would be a good idea if you read it in that case.
Okay, right. Okay. Right, first of all, I am speaking on behalf of the Green and Independent group. That includes Sam Davis, who scored the highest personal vote in the recent elections and is an independent for Queen Edith. And also the 2 Green Party councillors, myself and Hannah Copley. We congratulate Labour and Liberal Democrats on their recent county and mayoral election success. We welcome the establishment of a coalition at county level and hope that this will usher in a new issue of cooperation. Objectives of the group are to promote equality and combat financial and social exclusion in Cambridge, to foster residents' voices being heard, understood, and respected in all the operations of the city and its democratic processes. And thirdly, to combat the existential threat of the climate and ecological emergency. I'm going to start with action on financial exclusion. Even before lockdown, Cambridge was officially the UK's most unequal city. We all know, or should know, the shameful statistics. The top 6% of city earners take 19% of total income. The lowest paid 20% of city earners get 2%. During lockdown, that divide has become even more marked. While top earners have mostly continued to work from home on full pay, many of the lowest paid have fallen between the slats of COVID business and financial support. Low-paid workers are also particularly likely to work in the sectors that have been hit hardest by the pandemic, such as retail, transport, and hospitality. We propose to examine every major Cambridge development, such as the proposed development of the existing Anglian water site, and ask whether that development will promote the welfare of the lowest paid 20% of residents by providing accessible jobs, training, and affordable housing, or merely pull in workers from outside Cambridge and increase pressure on house prices, green spaces, and water use. Although pockets of poverty exist in even the most affluent Cambridge wards, it's no secret that the 3 Cambridge wards are some of the most deprived in the country. We therefore propose to establish an informal equalities forum for the city and county councillors and leaders of key voluntary groups in the 3 most deprived wards. On democracy, we note that the area committees will cease to be decision-making bodies. for the next year if motion 13B is passed. This offers us an opportunity to look at using these area committees to foster democracy and public inclusion and to experiment with new structures. We also particularly wish to stress the need to promote postal voting given the Conservative voter suppression plans and also the long working days of commuters and care workers in the city. As most of you will know, a care worker shift is 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. With an hour commute and time to change out of uniform, that doesn't really need a lot of time for a personal vote. Okay, then I would like to be able to congratulate the council on being one of the first 50 councils in the UK to declare a climate emergency. We urge you to continue to lead the way and be a beacon of best practice. We hope you are ready to take the next step and approve Councillor Copley's original unamended motion to support the Climate and Ecology Emergency Bill. And for the avoidance of doubt, we would like to point out that supporting this and other inferior environmental bills are not mutually exclusive. If it is decision of councillors to amend Councillor Copley's motion, we hope that you will amend it to support both motions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bennett. That takes us to agenda item 11, public questions. Questions from the public for this meeting only are published in the information pack on pages 21 to 28. We have 9 questions. Councillors answering have up to 3 minutes to answer each question. So, Councillor Herbert, you have the first question.
Thank you. Councillors will be aware that the first question, is to do with what is called the South East Transport Route. And it's a question, I believe, that's from a resident of South Cambridgeshire, because the same question was asked at the South Cambridgeshire District Council AGM. So I, as many councillors know, have taken a keen interest in achieving greater sustainable transport. And I've looked very closely at the route and the reasons for the value of an off-road route to the southeast of the city. And I've talked to residents of Stapleford, of Sawston, and of Great Shelford. And I know that they believe that there's some magic solution of a route that goes into the centre of Great Shelford. Sadly, having looked hard at it, and there will be evidence on this issue at the next meetings of the Greater Cambridge Partnership, there is no magic solution, nor, sadly, is it possible to restart the rail line from Cambridge to Haverhill. It's physically possible, it's just that there isn't the level of funding that would be required to do it. So, life is often a matter of what you can achieve, and if we are to make the city sustainable, the routes, off-road routes, the reliability of buses, the need for us to look at the pollution of vehicles and look at ways of raising extra funding for buses are at the heart of this issue. And that is why, after careful consideration, the route that is proposed from the biomedical campus down to Babraham and enabling people thereby to not clog the area of southeast Cambridge and all of South Cambridge with traffic is a necessary route. And it isn't just about the travel hubs, it's about enabling bus services to go much further out and to be much transformed. Thankfully, with the opportunities of a new county council under the leadership of Lucy Nethsinger and Elisa Machini and the partnership there, and also the work that Nick Johnson can lead. So I am afraid that I'm not going to give the answer, Mayor, that I think the questioner wants. I believe that public transport is essential along with walking and cycling, and that the route that's proposed is the right one.
Thank you, Councillor Herbert. Councillors 2 and 3 are allocated to Councillor Moore.
Thank you. So I apologise if I repeat myself quite... Oh, I think I need to turn that down.
Sorry, Councillor Moore, can I just ask, were you intended to do these questions separately or as one?
I've answered them all separately.
Okay, that's fine, thank you. It's just for timing factor, that's all.
So question number 2. We are seeking public views on a proposed vision and concept design approved for public consultation at the Council's Environment and Community Scrutiny Committee on the 25th of March 2021. We have designed the public consultation to be open, meaningful, and based on the resolution passed at the March Committee, we have committed to present the results, including any recommended changes to the proposed vision and concept design, back to Scrutiny Committee in October of this year. Based on the March Committee resolution, we have committed to not start on the next stage of the project, which is the detailed design stage, until the results of the consultation have been considered by the committee and a resolution to proceed to the next phase is passed. The consultation questionnaire uses closed questions to aid effective analysis of responses, while also providing open question opportunities through the inclusion of other comments, response options. This allows participants to be able to add their own views in their own words. Closed questions require participants to respond to specific preset response answer options, thereby enabling the collection and analysis of quantitative data, while open questions enable the collection and analysis of qualitative data. We feel the questionnaire provides a reasonable and fair balance between open and closed questions, and therefore the associated quantitative and qualitative data analysis. The Council uses the free online survey service provided by SurveyMonkey as a highly effective stakeholder consultation and engagement tool. The questionnaire survey has been designed so that the respondent's identity is anonymised. The inclusion of the demographic data questions is to enable the Council to assess how representative the response profile is of the wider community, and so target any necessary consultation workshops and also ensure that it fulfills its public sector equality duty. We are in the process of developing a demountable market stall trial specification, which we will be seeking market trader input to.
You've still got half a minute, Rosie.
Okay. Market traders will be involved in the stall selection and associated two-stage trial process. We have reviewed progressing the trial of the 2 prototype design options included in the proposed concept design report and decided it would be prudent to first test the available supplier market and then, subject to the outcome, to proceed with commissioning the prototypes. Although the stall design trial is not likely to commence until after the 6-week online consultation, we're committed to including the results of the trial with the wider public consultation results.
Thank you.
There is more, but okay. So question 3. Let me, since I just didn't say that.
And I believe you've got question 4 as well, I think, Councillor Moore, haven't you?
Okay. Question 3. The Council is committed to continuing with the 6 weeks public consultation using the online survey as planned, and to running a separate stall design options trial engagement and wider consultation process focused on market traders, but also involving the wider public. This will be carried out through the summer and also the winter. The aim is to report back on the results of the summer trial, along with the responses to the 6 weeks public consultation survey and any recommended changes arising to the proposed vision and concept design to the October Scrutiny Committee. At this stage, we are undertaking the consultation to obtain public views on the proposed high-level concept design principles and proposals, and not detailed design or operational management considerations. The aim of the current consultation is to establish whether or not there is public support for the proposed multifunctional use of the space and the associated infrastructure design improvements, including the improved market layout, restoration of the granite sets and a unified surfacing treatment, the increased outdoor seating down the middle, and new underground market waste management system. Should the consultation results show there is insufficient support for evening and nighttime use of the space, or there are no viable, suitable, demountable market stall options available, we remain committed to delivering on the other remaining aspects of the proposed vision and concept design. The market and the market square really needs investment in the flooring, the bins, the electrics, the lighting, the toilets for traders and the stall infrastructure. Whilst doing this work, I truly believe that we can make the space and therefore the market a more pleasant and attractive space to shop and to spend time, and that's what this project seeks to achieve. Question 4.
Oh, well done.
Sorry if I...
You had a whole 45 seconds left there, Rosie.
The Council has been fully open and honest with the public about the financial realities of the project from day one, and recently published the Quarterbridge report as part of the proposed consultation. The published report was formally noted by committee and included an outline business case and investment appraisal for the project. The investment appraisal showed the proposed project was a strong candidate for grant funding due to its delivering a range of economic and social benefits, including job creation, reduced antisocial behaviour and increased footfall. Although the Quarterbridge report demonstrated there was no viable business case for capital borrowing for the full project cost, it did confirm a commercial case for borrowing up to £2.5 to £3 million. We are in the process of developing a demountable market stall trial brief, which we will be seeking market trader input to, before issuing to the stall supplier market to respond to. The brief will set out the stall design requirements, including size, durability, wind loading, weather protection, trader operational requirements, and demountability. Although the stall design trial is not likely to start until after the 6-week online consultation, we're committed to including the results of the trial in the scrutiny. I do not believe that the Council is wasting taxpayers' money or that the consultation is premature, biased or misleading. For reasons as previously set out, refurbishment of the market as existing is not mentioned in the questionnaire because we believe that it is insufficient and would represent a missed opportunity to address the needs and opportunities of the square. We are consulting on a proposed vision and concept design which we believe meets the needs of the community, including our market traders and other city centre businesses, shoppers, residents and visitors. I believe that the creation of the open area down the centre around the fountain, with additional tables and seating, the reduction of the visual and spatial impact of the highway, and the underground bin system will really improve the square and the market. As part of the consultation, we will be erecting posters in and around the square from Tuesday the 1st of June. There will be postcards available from today, including on the stalls. I believe that these elements are at the heart of our proposed vision and concept design. However, if you or others feel they are not and we have got it wrong, the public consultation is your opportunity to provide us with your views. That's it.
Perfect.
Until I'm back in a minute.
Question number 5 is allocated to Councillor Collis. Well.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Declaring a biodiversity emergency in 2019 has to be one of the most significant actions that we have taken as a council. I don't think any of us here today underestimates the current and future threats to biodiversity. In proposing that motion, Councillor Thornborough called on Council to offer not just a statement of intent, but a plan of action. And we have acted on the pledges made by councillors that day. Considerations of how we protect and enhance biodiversity are embedded in all areas of council policy. We've stopped using herbicides on our parks. We have a right tree in the right place policy. And there are a number of strategic actions that we will be taking in the year ahead. Firstly, we'll be working on a new updated biodiversity strategy, which, subject to committee approval, will be out for public consultation this summer. We'll continue our EU-funded Cambridge Canopy project. So the average canopy cover in England is 16%, but we want to go beyond that and to do more, to increase our canopy cover from 17% to 19%. We'll also be publishing a baseline audit of all our local nature reserves, commons and larger green spaces. And we'll be developing a biodiversity supplementary planning document. And again, that's going to be out for consultation this summer. I've got a few examples of the more local operational actions. I can't cover them all, unfortunately. So continuing to increase the area of our parks and open spaces that are managed as long grass and wildflower meadows. Continuing the planned enhancement schemes on Cherry Hinton Brook and Vickers Brook through Newbit, working with local volunteers and the Friends Group as part of the wider Chalk Stream project, and working with local charity Action for Swifts to ensure new nest boxes are included during our council housing renovations. We said when we declared a biodiversity emergency that we wanted to make a difference in Cambridge. It really was not just a statement of intent. We've made a strong start, and we believe that together, in partnership, we can and we will do even more to make Cambridge the sustainable, biodiverse city that we all want to see.
Thank you, Councillor Collis, for your first statement, Executive Councillor. Thank you, well done. And question number 6, no one will be surprised to know, Councillor Moore.
A central feature of the proposed vision and concept design is the continuation of a successful and vibrant daily outdoor market. That means that the market stall design needs to be durable and meet trader needs. However, to make the most of the space, the Council is proposing a flexible design which allows stalls to be easily taken down and set up to allow Cambridge's central civic space to fulfil other community needs and wants when it is not being used as a market. That means the stalls need to meet the needs of traders and be demountable. The Council is committed to trialling available off the peg and, if necessary, prototype demountable stall designs with traders against an agreed specification to see if there are any that are considered suitable that meet the needs of both the market, traders, and the wider project. It is therefore considered premature for demountable stalls to be discounted at this stage prior to the results of the planned trials. Should the Council be unable to find a suitable demountable stall design, it is still committed to progressing the other elements of the proposed vision and concept design. The demountable stalls are only one element of this project to revamp and improve the market square and also the market. I do not consider the survey to be deeply flawed and so do not feel the need to withdraw it. As I have said earlier, I believe that this project is really needed and I have every confidence that we will have strong, robust stalls in a refreshed and renovated market square, which will benefit traders and shoppers alike. The stall trial is scheduled to start this summer and run on into the winter. The Council is currently committed to bringing the results of the public consultation and the initial stall trials to the October Scrutiny Committee. An assessment will be made prior to that committee date to determine whether there is sufficient reportable results from the initial summer stall trial to enable an informed discussion at committee around any required changes. Thank you.
2.5 minutes, well done. And next, okay, I've got questions 7, 8 and 9 to Councillor Collis. Is that different now?
Question, I'm going to take question 7.
Excellent, thank you.
It's regarding the observation wheel on Parker's Piece. The application was received on the 25th of March and following checks was made valid on the 29th of April. So this was after the 14 days that's provided in Article 40, and that arose as a backlog within the service. And this has been now subject to concerted work by the validation team, and we're working hard to reduce the time between receipt and validation and publication on the register. The planning application was accompanied by a certificate serving notice on the City Council as landowners. However, the wrong ownership box was ticked on the application. The Council has not sold Parker's Piece. We've sought legal advice and it's considered that the current application is not invalid. However, we have asked for a new certificate to be submitted, upon which we will consult again. There will be a full 21-day consultation once the new certificate is received, and the application will go to the planning committee after that application, the consultation period. The proposals were subject to the usual consultation with ward councillors before it progressed. The planning application consultation details are available online and include internal consultees and external consultees as well, such as highways authorities and neighbouring properties. I don't recognise the reference to Cambridge Consortium. However, the proposals are part of the City Council's response to encourage communities back into the city, to enjoy and support local retailers, visitor amenities, and critically, the jobs that they support, as well as providing opportunities for our cities and surrounding communities to safely visit the outdoor facilities and to enjoy this fantastic city offer once again. The structure has been erected under permitted development provisions, and it will be there, which allows it there for 56 days. Overall, the wheel will be operational for 3.5 months, as originally consulted with the ward councillors. So it will only remain there till about the 19th of September. Thank you.
Well within time. Thank you very much. Questions 8 and 9 are, once again, councillor Collis.
Thank you very much. So, question 8. We remain fully committed to our vision of a herbicide-free city. Since 2018-19, there's been a 24.5% reduction in the volume of herbicide used in the city, but we do know that there's much more to do. We recognise the opportunities that our city's parks, open spaces and road verges provide for habitat enhancement, how they help buffer and connect the existing network of natural green spaces that are already designated and managed for their biodiversity value. On our council-run parks and open spaces, we no longer use herbicides in our maintenance regimes as part of the biodiversity emergency motion that I talked about earlier. Recent investment in some new software now means that we can, for the very first time, produce digital maps of our parks and open spaces, and those allow us to define designated zones for different types of management treatment. And a system is currently being developed for operational adoption from later on this year. We've produced a Parks Biodiversity Toolkit to support residents and community groups in enhancing the biodiversity in their gardens and neighbourhoods. Now, other parts of the city are more of a challenge. This includes our council properties and county council highways assets. Untreated weeds in hard surfaces like roads, pavement, cycle paths, they all present a health and safety risk in terms of trips, slips and falls. We will continue to work hard to explore effective alternatives to chemical herbicides in those areas. We've also committed to undertake a review of street furniture and the public realm that would actually design out areas that require treatment with herbicides. We're committed to make sure that any new environmental improvement schemes and adopted open spaces don't require herbicide maintenance, to adopt the plant life guidance on changes to verge maintenance, to reduce the need for the use of herbicides by adopting other viable alternatives and an integrated weed control management system, and also to develop best practice and offer advice and maintenance services to others. So I'll just go straight on to question 9.
Well done, thank you.
So yes, thank you to Mr. Grieg for raising this important question, and also to On the Verge for the important work that they're doing. We do have an oral question later on about the council's approach to mowing, but I'd like to give a brief outline of that here. So we accept that there are going to be areas where we still need to keep the grass shorter. So I'm talking about sight lines at road junctions. You know, there are clear safety reasons for continuing to mow there. Sports pitches, which are going to be coming back into use for matches over the summer. But mowing is no longer the default option. We fully recognise that how we approach and plan cutting regimes has the potential to make major contributions to enhancing the city's biodiversity. And since we declared that emergency in May 2019, Council has committed to doing the work needed to back up those words with action. We've identified lots more areas in 2021 that will be left uncut until the autumn, and a map of those long grass areas is available to view on the Council website. This year, we've set aside some money to trial a new cut and collect machine, which is going to help reduce nutrient build-up from the cut vegetation that's usually left on site, and it'll also improve conditions for flower plants. We're also using the Plant Life Good Verge advice to review our methods of cutting, and in fact, actually the need to cut at all. And we're going to be trialling this at Barnwell Road, Wadlows Road and Rawlin Road. We hear residents' concerns, and I know Councillor Hav Davies has already been following these up. Large sections of Barnwell Road are included on that map that I mentioned, having been identified as areas where we would leave grass longer. The reasons as to why this verge was cut are being investigated by council managers to identify how that error occurred. And please be assured that we will be looking very carefully at the lessons learned so that we ensure incidences of this type do not happen in the future.
Bell was not required. Members, I'd like to say, before we move on to agenda item 12, would you like a 5-minute comfort break before moving on to that 30-minute section? Is everybody, or would you rather crack on? So I don't mind which. Comfort break, it looks like. Okay, can we call that 5 minutes? Would that be good? Thank you very much. Oral questions. This item will last for a maximum of 30 minutes. At the conclusion of 30 minutes, the Executive Councillor, as appropriate, may provide written responses to any questions that have not been able to be covered. A list of the oral questions is available in the information pack on pages 29 to 33. For ease of this meeting, I will call the questions and the councillor come to the microphone if they have a supplementary.
Mayor, on a point of order, it would help if there may not be hundreds of people watching Cambridge Council TV today, but it would help if the Executive Councillor had the opportunity just to state what is the subject of the question. Otherwise, for those people who are listening in, it will be unclear.
Yeah, I agree, actually, Councillor Herbert.
It could just be a phrase, but it would help.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, I think that's absolutely fine. The Executive Councillor, Chair or nominee will have up to 2 minutes to reply. The questioner will have 2 minutes to put a supplementary question, but obviously the questioners are not able to be here today. So the Executive Councillor will have a further 2 minutes to reply to that supplementary, had there been one. Okay, question number 1 is to Executive Council for Climate Change.
Thank you. So the question is, please could, the leader, but please could the Executive Councillor, I'll edit the question, let me know how long the COVID marshals will be working in the city. So nationally, the current COVID marshal commitment is to the 20th of June this year, with a review date of the 14th of June, when the government is expected to announce its roadmap progress and associated final step 4 decision. The 20th of June target date is subject to a government decision to proceed with its step 4 lifting of all remaining COVID security measures from the 21st of June. Here in Cambridge, our use of marshals has evolved dependent on our own city centre situation. The current plan, up to the 20th of June, is to have 4 COVID marshals operating Thursday to Sunday, 4 p.m. to midnight, to support COVID-safe evening and nighttime economy queue management in the city centre. So far, these COVID marshals operating in the evenings have been doing a really valuable job and are very popular with our city centre businesses. And so, as part of our review on the 14th of June, we will engage with our city centre management partners, including Cambridge Bid and the police, to identify whether there's an ongoing need for an evening and nighttime marshal scheme to run alongside the taxi marshals, which we've had for a number of years. We will also be returning to just having our 2 City Council stewards to support the markets management team to enable safe market queues on the highway around the market square. That's it.
Do I get to have a supplementary now? That's all right. I've crept up very quietly. Thank you. So thank you very much for that helpful information, Rosie. That's very useful to know. My supplementary question is about what steps the City Council is going to be taking to monitor behaviour in areas of informal public open space across the city during the summer. Last summer, there were very serious incidents in a number of our public open spaces. We are, of course, keen that as many people as possible are able to enjoy the wonderful green spaces around our city, but it is very important to ensure that they are used responsibly, both for the safety and health of local residents, but also for the safety and health of wildlife and other animals that use that space. So I would like to know what your plans are for making sure that positive behaviour is encouraged in those places, such as people taking their litter home and not setting up barbecues. And that's not just in the well-known areas such as Jesus Green, but also places like Sheep's Green, Cofen, Grantchester Meadows, Paradise Nature Reserve, Trumpington Meadows and Eddington. So if you could give a bit of an outline of your plans for making sure that behaviour is monitored in those spaces. I think regardless of what happens with the restrictions this summer, people's holiday plans this summer are likely to be different from other years. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's a little bit unclear to me. We haven't had, these are city centre marshals who are related to COVID in the city centre, managing queues. It sounds like you're requesting us to have marshals to manage our open spaces. So that's not really the role of these marshals. We do have our environmental enforcement officers. And I can't remember, I think it's like the last month, basically since the restrictions have lifted somewhat, we've changed the rotas for the enforcement officers so that they are rotated from 7 till 7. So they are already going around our open spaces, providing information, bags, so that people can put their own rubbish in bags. Even if they leave it in the middle of the field, but it's all in a bag, then that's an improvement. So if you are requesting for our city centre marshals to do more in our open spaces, then it would be better to have that clearly written so I can understand really what you're requesting. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, are you done?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm number 3 as well.
Question number 2, Executive Council for Open Spaces, from Councillor Goering.
Thank you very much, and thank you to Councillor Goering for the question. Access to public water sources is, of course, an important part of our public infrastructure. The use of throwaway plastic, so single-use packaging such as coffee cups and plastic bottles, it's acknowledged as a major contributor to the climate emergency. So anything we can do to reuse and to reduce their use should be encouraged. And we are fully committed to doing this as a council. We're also fully aware of the importance of our open spaces over the last year, and making sure that they have plenty of public water sources available is an excellent way of achieving this reduction that we all want to see. Council has therefore made budget commitments to delivering, where it can, more water refill points using funds from the Environmental Improvement Programme. It's also included, actually, as an aim in our Sustainable Food Policy document from 2018. There are a range of new and planned public water sources across the city. So if you combine those with, for example, the Refill app, you can actually easily navigate the city and find where they are located.
No bell required. Councillor Goering, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Mayor, on your re-election. And thank you, Councillor Collis, and also congratulations on your newly appointment as Executive Councillor. While I welcome the fact that there's budget availability for public water fountains, I'm slightly puzzled why, after it took almost 12 weeks to fix the toilets on Lammasland with portaloos installed, and now the toilets are working again, but why that renovation was not used to simply install a little public water fountain. That water fountain was first applied for in 2016, and then was promised by the Executive Councillor, not yourself, but your predecessors, in 2018. Now, 3 years on, we can only get water via the kiosk, but the playground is in use, rain or shine, and under those conditions, having simply a water point somewhere in the vicinity of Lammasland would have been a great improvement and a very practical step to address the climate emergency.
Thank you very much, Councillor Goering. I won't answer specifically on the toilets. Councillor Moore may be able to follow up on that with you. But I can answer you on the water fountain, the public water source. I should state that safety, of course, as I'm sure you'll understand, is the #1 priority at the moment. And that means that all the council refill points are currently decommissioned. And any proposed new installations are on hold during the pandemic. That's because reusable cups or containers when refilling pose a COVID transmission risk. So any tap or fountain units would have multiple touch points, which we just couldn't clean in the way and at the rate that we would need to in order to sufficiently reduce that transmission risk. However, I can let you and councillors know that Streets and Open Spaces do now have a programme of work in place to install new water points from the 4th of June. And the intention is to commission these on the 21st of June, obviously subject to the lifting of restrictions. And Lammasland is included in that list of sites.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Question number 3. Executive Council for Climate Change once more from Councillor Hoke.
Thank you. So the question is, could the Executive Councillor please explain why the Market Square consultation has opened with questions relating to the demountable stalls when it appears that no example of this has been provided for members of the public and traders to test on site? The Market Square consultation plan includes a range of engagement opportunities over the summer period, including the recently launched 6-week public consultation using the questionnaire survey response form and targeted outreach engagement opportunities with different sections of the community, including market traders and young people. At this stage of the project, the aim of the consultation is to obtain public views on proposed high-level concept design principles and proposals for the Market Square. Therefore, we do not feel the absence of physical demountable stalls to test on site during the initial 6-week consultation period will undermine people's ability to engage in and make meaningful and informed responses to the consultation proposals. Moreover, as part of the consultation plan, we will also be undertaking physical trials of demountable stall design options in a 2-stage assessment process involving market traders. The first stage will be an initial assessment by market traders of selected stall design options, which will be erected at our Cowley Road depot. We will then use the results to identify a preferred stall design option or options if there's no clear winner, which will then form the basis of the second stage, where they will be trialled in the live market situation on the Market Square.
Well done. Thank you very much. Councillor Hoke, have you a supplementary question?
Thank you very much. My name is Olaf Haug. I'm City Councillor for Trumpington. Thank you very much.
Just a little closer to the microphone, if you please.
That can be arranged.
That's better, thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Councillor, for the update. But doesn't the Executive Councillor think that this is all a bit late in the day? The current consultation is premature and based on the demountable stall design, and the planned trial is clearly just an afterthought. The feasibility of the demountable stalls is a practical question that needs sorting out between the Council and the stall holders before asking the public at large what they think. If demountable stalls can't be made to work, then many of the questions in the consultation are pointless. No amount of the public support for the vision will make unworkable stalls workable. Can't the Executive Councillor see that to proceed further on her current course will generate more enmity than cooperation? Wouldn't it be much better to suspend the current public consultation and get down to serious business with the stallholders directly to win back their trust after the knee-jerk and highly unpopular market closure in January? And then we can consult the public about the vision. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, I do not believe it is all a bit late in the day. We're still in the very early stages of this project, and it's a project that, as I mentioned earlier, I believe the market and the city centre as a whole, as well as the square, really needs. This is about the flooring. At the moment, it's very uneven, which means it's not accessible, but it also means that it's quite difficult to clean. The electrics mean that we can't have, for example, all the food stalls in one area. They need to be spread around, which makes it difficult for some of the retail stalls. Plus, we're just simply not making the most of the square. The demountable stalls are one aspect of the design, and the final design of the stalls doesn't need to be finalised until the detailed design stage. So we're still quite a long way off from that. This consultation is simply on the high-level concept design. It's the concept of rearranging the stalls, creating the open aisle through the middle, renovating the fountain and making more of the fountain, plus the view of Great St Mary's, introducing extra tables and chairs down that middle aisle, improving the electrics, having underground bins, renewing the toilets so that traders have a nicer space to use. The stalls are one aspect which, as I say, there will be a long consultation on that, and the design will be finalised for the stalls in the detailed design phase. This is the high-level concept design phase.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Question 4 to the leader from Councillor Half-Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. So the question was essentially about a letter I wrote to the Home Secretary asking for an extension to the deadline for EU settlement applications. It is the case that we have a large number of our valued citizens who were born or have nationality in other EU countries. And I have taken the view in consultation with groups that are working with EU citizens in Cambridge, that the June deadline is grossly unfair. Unfortunately, we have Priti Patel as Home Secretary, and she rebuffed my reasonable request for a one-year extension. It is the case that a lot of EU nationals, along with quite a lot of normally Cambridge residents, are not actually in the city at the moment. They've got other temporary arrangements, and they haven't had, during the pandemic, adequate access to citizenship advice. So I'm really deeply upset that the Home Secretary, who sadly on other fronts adopts a culture and a focus on a hostile environment for people who are not British nationals, is not actually thinking seriously about the damage that this will this will cause. A lot of EU nationals would otherwise return to Cambridge. They are temporarily away, and I'm deeply concerned that their rights will not be observed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Davis, have you a supplementary question? I guess as you're standing behind the mic, you do.
I do indeed. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Leader, and it's really disappointing to hear that the UK government has not agreed to the call to extend the deadline for applying for the EU settlement scheme. Given that there's just over a month left for residents to apply, would you join me in thanking those in the community who are working in the advice services that are supporting residents in making their applications? Could we commit that the City Council will continue to promote the scheme for the weeks remaining? And do you agree that the government should rethink their position and extend the deadline for applicants, and as well as extending the deadline, extending the financial support that the government's giving for the advice services to actually support people in making their applications as well? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Half-Davis. The points you make are solid. I think the advice services, including in this city, including a letter I wrote to everybody, in the sense that we put a letter out in with every council tax request at the end of March, highlighted that. Over a quarter of our residents have applied for settled and pre-settled status. I did and will continue to press the Home Office to continue the funding for support organisations, and I'm upset, and I'm also angry because there hasn't also been any clarity or even written record offered to people who get settled or pre-settled status, and over 20,000 of those in the city, Mayor. There's been no commitment to forward fund support organisations. There's been no recognition of the scale of the issues here, and as yet there is also no confirmation that EU residents who voted in their thousands in the local elections in Cambridge and Cambridgeshire will have a vote even in future years. So along with a number of other issues, I'm concerned that after the pandemic, that this government will have a new agenda, and that will be directly contrary to the rights of EU citizens, and will be directly contrary to a lot of the policies that we collectively across all parties in this council and city believe in, which is human rights and fair opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll just remind members that when I sound the bell for the first time, you've still got half a minute. just to remind you. So you'll get the, I know it's very different today, but so we're just trying to give you a half a minute warning, and then you've got another 30 seconds after that. So just to remind you. Question number 5, Executive Councillor for Communities, from Councillor Martin Smart.
Mr. Mayor, I'll be responding to this on behalf of
Yes,
Councillor
you will.
Smith.
I've just been told that. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
I've actually just been told. I've just read that as well. Thank you.
No problem. So the question is on the plans for the future of the food hubs post-pandemic. It's a question from Councillor Smart. So promoting food justice is one of our top priorities as a city council. No one should be struggling to put food on the table, and we want to do everything in our power to address that. Even before the pandemic, we had funding in place for a central food distribution hub to help tackle food poverty and reduce food waste. We're currently working with Cambridge Sustainable Food to find a permanent base for that. Over the pandemic, there was an amazing outpouring of effort to support people in need. Over 100 organisations and 300 volunteers have distributed 266 tonnes of food via the food hubs. There were over 36,000 food hub visits and over 15,000 cooked meals prepared. So many people did so much and are doing so much, and I want to thank Cambridge Sustainable Food especially for their leadership on the food hubs. With the community, we now need to look at how the food hubs will work into the future. At the moment, we are trialling possible models in the food hubs in Abbey, Trumpington and in Cherry Hinton, and that's looking at how the food hubs could also meet other needs in the communities as well as food poverty. The efforts to get food to everyone have been amazing, but the best future is one where no one needs to have to turn to us for help because everyone has enough. We are part of the Cambridge Food Poverty Alliance, and that work, along with our own anti-poverty strategy, are central to helping to promote food justice across the city.
Thank you for that. Councillor Smart, have you a supplementary? Yes, you have.
Mayor, so congratulations on your elevation, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to Councillor Davies for her response on our important work on food hubs in the city. Unfortunately, Councillor Smith is not able to attend today, and I'm sure that she regrets that I've been whipped in the past, and I know that Councillor Smith has always wanted to attend every meeting on everything to do with the council, so it's unfortunate because of COVID and government regulations that she cannot attend today. My follow-up question is, as well as food poverty in Cambridge, COVID has made other types of food poverty, such as digital exclusion, worse. What are the City Council doing to combat digital poverty?
Thank you. That's a really important question. So many families will have been affected by both food poverty and digital exclusion, and we're thinking particularly about families where children will have been attending school virtually, as well as the fact that digital exclusion obviously also impacts many older people in the communities, compounding issues around isolation and mental health. This year, the Council has provided a total of £91,000 of funding to tackle digital exclusion across the city. This includes £40,000 to Cambridge Online through the community grants to deliver a range of activities, including digital inclusion clubs, digital skills training, and help with filling online forms. The Council also provided £35,000 for digital devices and data packages to low-income families who are struggling to access education and services online during the pandemic. Tackling digital exclusion alongside food poverty and other types of poverty in the city is really important and will remain a top priority for the Council going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Question number 6, Executive Councillor for Open Spaces, Sustainable Food, from Councillor Michael Bond.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Bond, for your question, and welcome to the Council. So the award of £5,000 in funding for the 5 Trees project was agreed at the Planning and Transport Committee on the 20th of September last year, and that was following some excellent cross-party working between Councillor Bird and Councillor Porrer. Since October 2020, staff from Streets and Open Spaces, including the Tree Officer and the Biodiversity Officer, have been working on developing a set of plans for the site. Those proposed plans include tree planting, floral meadows, bee banks and other biodiversity enhancements, all of which were requested and detailed in the funding application. The intention now is to consult on these proposed plans within the next 6 weeks and for the works to be completed in the autumn-winter of this year, reflecting the feedback from that consultation process, obviously. What we want is to hear from residents about their vision for the 5 Trees site. And I'm sure Councillor Bond will welcome the opportunity to continue the cross-party work already begun and will join with Councillor Bird and Councillor McQueen in supporting residents on this.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bond, have you a supplementary?
Michael Bond, East Chesterton. I'm pleased to hear that progress is already being made and congratulate the City Council on improving on some of its previous projects in East Chesterton where it's taken years to get started, let alone months. Thank you.
Okay, take your time, it's fine.
Sorry.
Don't worry. We stop the clock, don't
No,
worry.
I think I'll just congratulate them because it is a great progress. As I said, our previous project has taken 5 years and it was promised within a year. So, great improvement.
Okay, thank you for that.
Can I just make a reply?
Yes, of course.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Councillor Bond. That's very much appreciated. I just want to reiterate a point I made earlier about our open spaces and the importance of them across our communities, particularly in a community like East Chesterton, where there are, as we know and has been mentioned, high levels of inequality. We are committed to keeping those open spaces. All of them will stay.
Okay, thank you for that. We've got about 7 minutes left, so we can probably squeeze this last one in. Question 7, Executive Council for Climate Change from Councillor O'Reilly. And that will be the last question. Thank you.
Thank you. So the question is, what has been achieved in 2021 to date in assisting city centre and market food and drink businesses to increase their operations and space for customers outdoors? So last summer, the powers to licence outdoor tables and chairs was given by government to the City Council, and our licensing team have been doing their best to enable businesses to have outdoor tables and chairs where it is practically possible. With our £720,000 support grant from the combined authority, we've also just put 17 picnic tables around the market square, and there are plans for another 13 to go out around the city centre in the next few weeks. As part of the same project, new lighting is going up around the city centre at this moment to make it more attractive. Plus, we still have the parklets, wayfinding app, and the mobile visitor welcome centre still to come. As part of our work on the new litter strategy and bin review, we are trialling some solar compactor bins around the city centre, and we've put the first ones in around the market square, which will help to keep the areas around the picnic tables clean and litter-free. And of course, the day-in, day-out work of our Streets and Open Spaces team in keeping the city centre clean and well-kept is vital to making it an enjoyable place to sit outside in. In a recent survey from businesses, this was the top priority for city centre businesses, shortly followed by outdoor city centre events. It should just be noted that the county still licensed those businesses who already had outdoor tables and chairs before the pandemic, and currently the licensing powers will return back to the county in September. I can't talk about business support without mentioning our fantastic environmental health team who've been supporting businesses over the last year to trade within the changing COVID regulations by keeping them updated and informed. Information coming out of government has been confused and often hard to keep up with. Often individuals haven't been 100% clear about what they are or aren't allowed to do, and so for businesses to trade legally, it's been difficult. Thank you.
Well done. The person who's chairing this committee, this session, took their eye off the clock, so you had another 26 seconds. I don't know who that could have been.
Much appreciated.
Councillor O'Reilly, have you a supplementary? No supplementary. You've got my vote already. Thank you so much. Well, that concludes the questions, the oral questions we have. And should anybody require a written response to those questions not been able to be asked, then you can request that. That takes us to agenda item 13A. Motion to council. The mover and seconder have up to 10 minutes between them. The proposer and seconder of the amendment also have 10 minutes between them. All other contributions are up to 3 minutes per councillor. I now call on Councillor Copley to speak to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm here today simply but strongly with one aim: to ask you to support the most urgent motion in front of politicians today, the Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill. The decisions we make today about this have huge impact for young people like me, your children and grandchildren, and every single future generation of humanity. To give some background, humans have already caused irreversible climate change, the impacts of which are being felt in the UK and around the world, and global temperatures have increased by 1 degree from pre-industrial levels, with atmospheric carbon dioxide levels continuing to rise. Without urgent, significant, and sustained action, the world is set to exceed the 1992 Paris Agreement's 1.5-degree limit between 2030 and 2040. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has reported that the increase in harm caused by a rise of 2 degrees rather than 1.5 degrees is significant. However, limiting heating to 1.5 degrees may still be possible with ambitious action from national and subnational authorities, civil society, the private sector, and local communities. I'd just like to add in on the basis of a discussion I had earlier, the difference between 2 degrees and 1.5 degrees doesn't seem very much, but it is the difference between making areas of the world uninhabitable, and it massively increases our risk of mass crop failure, which could lead to mass starvation. This is a very serious problem. The costs of failing to address this crisis will far outstrip the investments required to prevent it. According to the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Independent Commission on Climate Change report this year in March, our area is at high risk from the effects of climate change, and we face a future of flooding, heat waves, and water shortages. And in addition, our region has such high emissions that we will have exhausted all of our allowed share of emissions to 2050, this is a quote from that report, in just 6 years unless drastic action is taken now. Taking action and investing now will bring many benefits in the form of green jobs, breathable cities, and thriving communities. So, what action do we need to achieve this? Cambridge City Council declared climate and ecological emergencies in 2019, and this year set out a strategy for the council to reach net zero carbon from its direct emissions by 2030. This represents 1.1% of carbon emissions in Cambridge. The council has also called on government to make the investment and changes needed for Cambridgeshire and the UK to reach net zero carbon. It's clear that without serious support and intervention from the government, we will not be able to achieve the changes required to our greenhouse gas emissions in time to limit global heating to within safe limits. I will repeat again, 1.5 degrees is the only safe level of global warming, and we have only 6 years of our current emissions left in Cambridgeshire before we exceed our fair share of that. The Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill is the most meaningful legislation proposed to take real action on the climate and ecological emergencies. It was introduced as a private member's bill in Parliament by Caroline Lucas on the 2nd of September 2020, and since 2017, 17 private members' bills have been passed by Parliament. It's not true to say these bills cannot be passed. So far, it has been backed by over 100 MPs from 8 different political parties. It is supported by thousands of campaigners across the country, as well as a broad alliance of businesses and organisations, including locally Transition Cambridge, and 49 councils have passed motions in support of the CEE bill, as I am here today to ask of us. This bill reassesses the urgency of these existential threats to humanity. It would require that the government develop an emergency strategy to do the following. First, to ensure that the UK plays its fair and proper role in reducing greenhouse gas emissions, consistent with limiting global temperature increases to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial temperatures, which is the identified safe level of global warming. Second, to close loopholes and ensure that all of the UK's consumption emissions are accounted for, such that we as a country cannot pretend that we've had a fall in emissions when we are instead just increasing our consumption of items and products which required massive carbon emissions in their country of origin, and pretending that that is solely the responsibility of the country who made them, not us. Third, the CEE bill ensures that emissions from aviation and shipping are counted. Fourth, it protects and restores biodiverse habitats along overseas supply chains, which are often degraded or destroyed in the pursuit of productions of items and materials for export. Fifth, it restores and regenerates the UK's depleted soils, wildlife habitats, and species populations to healthy and robust states. We've all noticed how often that has come up as an issue today in questions from the public, maximising their capacity to absorb carbon dioxide and their resistance to climate heating. And finally, in order to put in place these major changes to society in a way that does not further disadvantage those who are already less well off and face real poverty, uses a method of democracy called a citizens' assembly, a version of which that has already been trialled locally by the Greater Cambridgeshire Partnership, which would be representative of the UK's population, who would engage with Parliament and government and help develop the emergency strategy and make decisions about what changes are implemented. Legally binding citizens' assemblies have already been used successfully in many countries, including in Iceland to draft a new constitution, and in Ireland to decide the constitutional status of abortion. In France, the Citizens' Assembly on Climate made ambitious recommendations, of which a number are already the law, such as banning domestic flights when train journeys could be made in less than 2.5 hours within France. Could you imagine such a decision happening in the UK with our current political climate? With respect to climate change, politicians have repeatedly proven to us that they are not willing to act with the necessary urgency. Empowering a citizens' assembly would enable the political deadlocks to be broken and to ensure that people fully representative of the spectrum of experiences and perspectives of people living in the UK, including the young, the elderly, those without citizenship, and workers, including trade union members, to ensure that decisions made are fair and do not disadvantage any groups. For example, those currently working in high emission sectors such as aviation. I will now summarise existing and alternative legislation and explain why these are insufficient given the nature of the crisis that faces us. The current legislation is the Climate Change Act 2008, which calculates the UK carbon budget in a manner that is inequitable and unfair. It amounts to an offshoring of our emissions. Emissions from aviation and shipping are not factored in until 2033, and only the UK's domestic production-based emissions are included. The Office of National Statistics states that the UK has become the biggest net importer of carbon dioxide emissions per capita in the G7 group of wealthy nations, outstripping the US and Japan, as a result of buying goods manufactured abroad. And recent analysis by the World Wildlife Fund for Nature states half of our real carbon footprint comes from imported goods and international travel. With this legislation, there is a lack of urgency and the government is not fully accountable. There is no specific deadline for a strategy to meet the carbon budget to be presented to Parliament. I remind you again, in Cambridgeshire, we have only 6 years of our fair share of current emissions remaining to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees. Another bill currently proposed is the Environment Bill. This bill deals only with the environment and lacks a coherent strategy for dealing with the entirety of the climate nature emergency. From 10 minutes.
You have 1 minute left.
Yeah, thank you. Leading scientists tell us that this bill does not go far enough and is not proportional to the scale of the crisis we face. So, to sum up, in this motion, I'm proposing that the Council registers our support for the Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill, which represents the strongest and fairest proposal to make a real difference to the dual climate and ecological emergencies. By supporting this motion, the Council is committing to writing to local members of Parliament for Cambridge and South Cambridgeshire to urge them to support the bill, as well as informing the local media and the CEE Bill Alliance of their support, and doing all within its legislative and influential power to get this bill passed, for the sake of all life, both human and non-human, in Cambridge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You completed that with 10 seconds to spare. Very well done, the first speech. Very well done. Congratulations on that. It's a daunting building anyway, but in front of people, so many people that you don't know in a brand new environment. Very well done. Thank you. So I've just lost my place for a moment. Councillor Bennett, I believe you're seconding this, but there is no time left to speak, unless you can get it into 10 seconds. Sorry, we can't hear you.
10 seconds. I object to the amendment motion that has been placed before us. And the reason I object is because it is not an amendment, but it's so substantial that as a matter of fact and degree, it is a new motion. It has not been raised by 18th May. It is out of time, and I move that it be struck out and deferred.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've given you a bit longer. Thank you for that. Councillor Moore has given notice of an amendment which is on page 35 to 38 of the information pack. Can Councillor Moore confirm who's the seconder? But I believe it's Councillor Gawthorpe-Wood. That is correct? Yeah, thank you. Can Councillor Moore, you have 10 minutes between you.
Thank you. Sorry, I think there was some miscommunication around the time that we had and whether seconders. So I was expecting a much more limited time, and the seconder is not expected to speak, but...
That's absolutely fine.
So the planet is warming at an alarming rate, and as average temperatures rise, the impacts on the environment will most likely create a snowball effect so that the rate of increase itself speeds up. This means that swift and decisive action is needed to reduce emissions now, and although I agree with almost all of the Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill, and certainly with its aims and principles, I believe it is the Environment Bill which will create action that this country and this planet needs. A number of opportunities to improve and strengthen the Environment Bill have sadly been rejected by this government, but we welcome the proposed amendments which have yet to be debated, and despite having some very serious concerns with how the House of Lords is selected, we can only hope that they will also improve and strengthen the bill. Our amendment aims to highlight the support that we have with the Climate and Ecological Emergency Alliance amendments to the Environment Bill and the aims and principles of the Climate and Ecological Bill itself. Although this council and the City of Cambridge as a whole needs new government investment and legislation to achieve our own zero carbon commitments, we are not simply waiting and are already taking strict action. Our amendment commits to increasing carbon literacy throughout the council, and we will widen this to residents, which we hope will, once again, it's an unfortunate use of terms, create a snowball effect. Because in order to achieve our net zero carbon commitments and to reduce global warming, we don't just need government action, we don't just need council action, but we actually also do need individual action and behaviour change. The CEE bill requires that natural climate solutions are used to reduce emissions. And although I agree that we cannot rely on technological advances alone, we must use whatever solutions are available to us. And that is the heart of our concern with this CEE bill. Thank you.
Well done, thank you very much. We have agreed that there will be one speaker per group, unless that's changed, Mr. Leader, on this. So let's see how we go with that. So is there any debate? Councillor Dial. You're first in that case, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And also congratulations on your elevation, or should that be continued levitation. I would also like to welcome the new councillors here today. It is great to have so many new voices, and I think this is illustrated by the motion that is laid before us now. This council has declared a climate emergency, but there is still much that must be done by us here in Cambridge to effectively combat the causes of global warming. I would note that the estimate included within the motion that the council's own carbon footprint represents 1.1% of emissions in Cambridge, excludes the impact to our own council-owned housing, and which probably contributes a much larger 5% of the city's total. Retrofitting our council homes is a very difficult problem, and I hope we can draw upon the new talent in this room to help grasp that nettle and many others and deliver real change for our city. It therefore may risk appearing irresponsible to focus council time on national political debates, where our own power is extremely limited. However, combating the climate emergency will never boil down to a single moment. It is a movement requiring a diversity of tactics and consistent effort to create the change we need. This motion serves to promote and support the work of the CEE bill, which Councillor Copley has explained in detail. I'm glad that every Liberal Democrat MP supports this bill as we work to build a cross-party alliance that will respond to global warming like an actual emergency. The amendment from Labour is one of two halves. I do welcome the opportunity to also highlight the importance of the Environment Bill and of MPs' efforts across all parties to amend it and overcome material weaknesses in the policies currently proposed by the Tory government. However, although the Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill may not yet have been provided the support required to push it forward to debate, it should be noted that not one of Labour's amendments to the Environment Bill has been accepted either. It is counterproductive to belittle one campaign versus the other, when both, given the current Parliament, serve to provide an alternative and apply pressure on the government. I think, as Councillor Bennett noted in earlier remarks, these two paths are not mutually exclusive. More disagreeably, if amended, the final part of the Council Notes section of the motion does misstate the current content of the CEE bill. Following cross-party work to streamline the document, there are currently no restrictions to use only natural climate solutions. Furthermore, the Climate Assembly would comprise a representative sample of the UK population. It would not remove input from any group. Trade union members would be present, as well as representatives from all other working groups within the UK. For example, does the Executive Council believe that Amazon delivery drivers, pressured away from unionisations, do not deserve equal representation in such a forum? I do agree this process would bypass normal UK parliamentary processes, but that is kind of the point. Hopefully soon, the Labour Party will join us in alliance to deliver the level of reform which is needed as a foundation to build the sustainable society and avoid the environmental catastrophe. Ultimately, this leads to an amendment which significantly dilutes the impact of the original resolution. I hope members of the ruling groups give some consideration and instead choose to support this motion unamended. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other speakers on our side? We have had a speaker from your side, Councillor, so I'm just seeing if there's any others. If not, then by all means. But are there any other speakers from any other group? You'll have a chance at the end of the debate, Jenny, as the seconder, if that's okay. In that case, Councillor Goering, certainly. It's only under the present circumstances, you understand, we're just trying to cut the time down, that was all. So, as there are no other speakers, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I also believe there was a point of order raised by the seconder of the bill. If you could answer that point of order first, I will then make my intervention.
I don't believe that. I think the question was, or the query was that the amendment was ill-timed, was out of time, but I don't believe it was it, Mr. Leader? The amendment was not out of time, was it?
It's in time and it's in order.
Yeah, that's what I believed. So it is within time and it is within order. That's how I understood it to be.
I think.
I'm sorry, but I think you're wrong on that. As a matter of fact and degree, that amendment is so substantial, I say amendment in inverted commas, that it constitutes a new motion. I'm aware that sort of long amendments have been permitted in the past, but frankly, getting into bad habits doesn't excuse continuing them. I'm also aware that as a company secretary, I'm used to a much stricter corporate law system. But the whole point of having a time limit of motions and putting them on the notice is so that everybody can be prepared to have a proper and informed debate.
Okay, thank you for that. My advice from both sides is that this amendment is in order, so I rule that it is in order and it will continue. Councillor Goering?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I respectfully disagree with this legal opinion by your officers, but it would be great to actually get some clarity on these wrecking motions because they're becoming a very bad habit in this council. I'm very disappointed that the leading group didn't grasp the opportunity to show some support to a really innovative piece of legislation that is before Parliament. It has been proposed for quite some time. It has received significant support from the Labour side. I'm disappointed because I think our own Labour MP, Daniel Zeigner, has not supported this bill, which is kind of strange because I know he cares deeply about climate change. Given that we are all in agreement on the urgency of action, why not simply send the signal to Westminster that in this city, the CEE bill is widely supported across parties? No, instead, we're using sort of disagreements about the way to undermine that single voice support. It's ridiculous to say that nature-based solutions would exclude any other form of addressing climate change and that technology solutions are therefore excluded. That's blatantly not the case, but it's indicated in the amendment that I think was actually hastily drafted by the major group as a real factual mistake, as was pointed out by the proposer of this motion. So I strongly disagree with the amendment, and I strongly support the original motion. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor,
Excuse us, Mr. Mayor, we weren't clear that on the format of this debate. In terms of where this council looks on climate change, we clearly do want to change the legislation, and we want a government that actually wakes up to the whole range of issues on climate change. At the moment, there's no leadership on gas, there's no leadership on new planning applications or existing housing stock, there's no leadership on transport, and there's no leadership on a whole range of issues where we as a council, or the county council, or Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, with the excellent Independent Climate Change Commission, can actually take action. We've heard from the larger opposition party that there's going to be a new culture of negativity and challenge rather than actually working together. We heard from Councillor Bick's speech. We've heard from Councillor Gehring, who perfectly well knows what the rules are for debates in our council. When we were in opposition, we had behind our heads, Councillor Gehring, the amendment flashed up without any notice at all in a council meeting. So we have instituted a process which does mean that any amendments are presented the day before. This is not, as you well know, Councillor Gehring, a wrecking amendment. We are recognising that Parliament needs to legislate. We just do not believe that this particular bill, which has no standing in Parliament currently, other than as an advisory bill, is the route. We believe that the opposition, which does include Green MP, Lib Dem MPs and Labour MPs, Scottish National and many other parties, needs to work together in Parliament. And our job, Councillor Gehring, and I'm also talking to our welcome new Green councillors, is to actually sort the issues out from the ground up. So we focus, Mayor, on the issues of what do we do with housing, what do we do with planning, what do we do with transport. And yes, people can say that we should try and mini-debate and be a House of Commons, but we are here for Cambridge and we will seek to work with the other parties because, as Councillor Moore said, it is the emissions of every resident, of every business and all of the actions that we control that are what matters here. We will no doubt have many more motions about what we should be doing if we were the House of Commons. What I say is what we should be doing is targeting change that we can actually do here. And I'm listening and I'm hoping that the opposition parties will work with us on tackling Cambridge issues rather than pretending we're the House of Commons.
Councillor Gorthrope-Wood. You have 3 minutes. Welcome to the microphone for the first time.
Thank you. Councillors, first of all, I want to agree with what our leader, Councillor Herbert, has just said. The CEE bill doesn't grasp the metal. Sorry, the advisory bill does not grasp the full range of things that need to be addressed. We need to work from bottom up. Saying that there are thousands who are supporting the existing bill or supporting emergency climate change developments. We need to get it up to hundreds of thousands and millions. Now, one of my issues has been that representing one of the, and I'm sorry, but it is one of the poorer wards of Cambridge, we do need to make sure that energy improvements and climate change does not disproportionately affect them. They're not the people, in large part, who can just go out and buy an electric car. And anyway, do we want loads and loads of electric cars? So my interest is in working together and making sure that everyone, by improvements in housing, and we're already in this city trying to exceed what are building regulations in order to reduce our emissions, domestic emissions I'm talking there, of course. Now, I could go on about this for a long time, but I won't. So I think I've said what I want to say now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to go to the vote on this amendment. Can I see all those in favour, please?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I would like to request a roll call for this vote.
So,
a decision vote seconded by Councillor Davies.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. It's my fault.
Sorry, I would like to request a roll call so that the people who vote in favour and against are minuted in the notes, which I've discussed with Gary and...
So what we would normally do, members, is we'd normally take... Do you mind if I speak? So what we normally do when a roll call has been requested, it's immediately after the vote has been taken. So we do vote on the amendment. I will take the numbers and then I will roll call councillor by councillor. Okay?
Have gone up, yeah. That's how I understood it. Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, so the roll call is accepted.
Just ask the vote as well.
Okay, yeah, so we'll just step back a bit. So if we just go to the vote on the amendment once more, and then Gary will do the roll call.
So that's 23. And then against and abstain. And then
Do you want to do them all? So you want to do them all?
No, do the roll call in one go.
Yeah, okay. So then all those against?
So I think that's 14.
Okay, and any abstentions?
No abstentions.
Okay, thank you. So we'll do the roll call now then.
Okay, so if I call your name, please, and then you're for the amendment, against the amendment, or abstaining. Ashton. Vacant D. Vacant S. Bennett. Bick. Bird. Bond. Collis. Copley. Cox. DL. Davey. Davis H. Davis S. Dryden. Flober. Gawthrope Wood. Garing. Gilderdale. Houck. Healy. Herbert. Lee. Macpherson.
4.
Moore. Nethinger. O'Reilly. Pagecroft. Porrer. Pounds. Robertson. Scutt. Shield. Smart. Smith S. Sweeney. Thornborough. Thank you. So that will be recorded in the minutes, okay?
Okay, thank you everyone. I'll now go to the vote on the motion as amended. All those in favour?
So again, that's 23.
And against?
So that's, sorry.
Sorry. Okay. And any abstentions?
So that's 14. Do you want to do this on this as well, Councillor Copley? Yeah. So we're going to have a roll call on this one as well, people, please. Okay, starting with Councillor Ashton. So this is voting on the motion as amended. Yeah. Ashton? Vacant D? Vacant S? Bennett? Vic? Bird? Bond? Collis? Copley? Cox? DL? Davey? Davis H? Davis S? Dryden? Flowerbear? Gawthorpe Wood? Garing? Gilderdale? Houck? Healy? Herbert? Lee? Macpherson?
4.
Moore? Moore? Nethinger? O'Reilly? Pagecroft? Payne? Sorry, not here. Porrer? Pounds? Robertson? Scutt? Shield? Smart? Smith S? Sweeney? Thornborough. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. That takes us to agenda item 13B, motion to council. The mover and seconder have, again, up to 10 minutes between them. I now call on Councillor Herbert to speak to the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I've recorded my views about virtual meetings, and I think we've done pretty well, assisted by the officers, who I would like to thank for the extraordinary effort that was required. It is a wonderful venue, but it doesn't make for good engagement. And similar meetings have been held in aerodromes and large factory premises over the last few weeks. And it was an act of typical callousness by government that doesn't really understand local councils or local communities in getting rid of virtual meetings. I know because I wrote and talked to both the Minister's office and also to several senior civil servants about it, and we got one of the worst ever letters from a minister trying to make out that getting rid of virtual meetings was doing local government a favour. So I think one of the few benefits of such a terrible last 15 months has been that we've learned that virtual meetings are a real boon. So we know that several of our colleagues today are unable to be here because they are actually shielding more for family members than for themselves. So they are currently being denied the right even to participate in this meeting. We know that virtual meetings enable people who've got caring responsibilities to attend, people who may have a disability, they may be ill, but they do want to nevertheless be part of meetings. And we know from the figures, and I hope these have been shared, Mayor, with the other councillors, just the numbers of people who've been able to watch. So whilst I'm going a little bit beyond area committees, I do think it's important that planning committees operate in a way where people can just see the item that they care about, and that people can even watch as exciting meetings as these. But the area committees are right at the heart of it, because we sit in dusty halls, often latish in the evening, and it's not everybody's idea of a good time to join us in the Wesleyan Chapel or in the soft sofas of cherry trees just off Norfolk Street. And area committees should be a really vital place for the public where people can raise issues, where if there's a major issue of concern affecting that part of the city, we make sure that there are speakers' input and that there's public questions. And as Jackie Weaver has shown, virtual meetings can be both direct, entertaining, get national coverage, can really engage people. So I believe that virtual meetings will be improved by, area committees will be improved by the use of virtual meetings. And I do believe that they'll give more members of the public the opportunity both to ask questions and to partake in discussions. Just because they're virtual doesn't mean that they cannot make recommendations. And so some councillors may fear that area committees lose a decision power. I do believe that area committees should and will retain recommendation rights. And in addition to the wording that will flow from this motion if passed, hopefully on this occasion, in a unified spirit of love and happiness and unity from all parts of the council, we will construct a route so that, say, the area committee's got a budget, or if we've got influence, as I hope we will get through the recreation of a Cambridge Transport Committee, which could play a huge part in partnership with the County Council in bringing these issues closer to our public residents and local businesses, that area committees will actually have a say as well in the wider part of the council. So I urge councillors to support this motion, and I hope they will. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Herbert. Councillor Robertson, would you like to speak now? Splendid. Councillor Smart.
I'm the seconder, Mayor, but I
Oh, you are
understood
the
it was
seconder.
a formal seconding only. I didn't think I was going to have to speak.
You don't have to.
No,
we just
good.
need a seconder for it, that was all. Councillor Bick, I'm sorry.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to say that my group were supporting this this motion. I think we think it's the right thing to do in the current circumstances. I would resile somewhat from the way Councillor Herbert presented this, because it sounded more like a case for area committees always to be held virtually only, and I'm not sure that my colleagues have got to that point yet. I think that although the advent of virtual committees certainly does open attendance and participation to a greater section of a greater part of the community in one respect, it has the reverse effect in terms of some other people, and I think the longer term prospect that I'm more drawn to is a way of achieving both through a hybrid approach, which heaven knows where that stands in relation to what the government's going to be doing, but it does seem to be the most inclusive way of looking at this for the future, rather than shutting out people who feel most comfortable and only interested in attending in person, or shutting out people who are only interested in virtual participation. And in the light of that, I'd like to ask Councillor Herbert, when he sums up, whether along with this motion he would commit to ensure greater publicity for these meetings taking place, because we think that there hasn't always been awareness over the past year of the meetings themselves. Participation could be even higher, and letting people know that they're happening, reinforcing in simple terms how people can connect to them and participate, I think ought to be an important rider to this motion. And it's not a subject of an amendment, but I would have thought it's a subject that we could all agree on was a necessity if we go this path. Thank you.
Thank you. No other speakers? Councillor Herbert, did you wish to sum up in that case? So I have no other speakers on this.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Bick. So yes, I was expressing a personal view about the arrangements, and clearly the motion does talk about a review before the end of the year. We are aware of the value of looking at the way the council does comms in a number of areas, and in terms of some extra publicity for area committees for the rest of this year, then I'm very happy to support that, because there is an opportunity of identifying some of the issues. So, for instance, if we were in a position to encourage councillors, but particularly members of the public, to raise a couple of issues a week or so ahead, or for us as area committees to have a bit more of a planning approach involving all of the members of the area committee as to how we should what we should be focusing on in the next meeting or meetings over the next 6 months, then I think that we can actually offer a better agenda. I don't think we can say area committees in empty halls have been a great success, Councillor Bick. I think that we have some people do turn up, and they tend to be similar types of people each time, and so I do think that your suggestion of improving the publicity will help, and I do think that also virtual meetings where the area committee can at least do a bit of planning ahead. We may not be before the next couple of meetings, because I don't want them delayed, but if there is the opportunity before the autumn meetings for each of the area committees, all 4 of them, to have a virtual and friendly discussion about some of the issues that they should cover, and if there's also the opportunity to anticipate some of the areas that are big, like North East Cambridge, or what's happening on a big issue affecting a particular quarter of the city, then we should look to accommodate them. But I just do believe that if we think about a virtual format, that it will work, because there is the opportunity with the right technology of us going perhaps a bit beyond Teams, I would hope, because Teams is a pretty restrictive format, for us to have a format that is engaging, and that if people just want to switch off the television or take half an hour out of their evening, then they will find it a useful time spent. So, and I just think also for busy councillors' lives, that we just need to hang in there for virtual, because a lot of people do not stand to be councillors, because they have to have meetings at 11 till 2 on a Thursday sometime in May. And I do think overall, on equalities grounds, that we have to review how we operate and encourage people to be councillors, some of whom may have other duties for parts of the evening when we have area committees. So thank you for your opportunity to respond, Councillor Bick, and I hope that was useful for other councillors.
Thank you very much. In that case, then we'll now go to the vote. All those in favour of the motion, please show.
That's unanimous.
I think we've got everybody, but I'll call it anyway. Any against?
Oh,
we didn't have everybody, so that was worth it. I beg your pardon.
It's difficult to see from up here.
Any abstentions? Thank you very much, everyone. There are no written questions, so we now move to hold the special meetings of committees to deal with annual appointments. Members of the following committees have been issued with special meeting agendas, which can be found in the information pack: Civic Affairs, Environment and Community, Planning and Transport, Licensing, Strategy and Resources. Those who have been appointed members on the committee will be called. When a committee is dealing with its appointments, would only the members of that committee please stand or raise their hand in order to make voting clear? Would executive councillors who are being asked to agree appointments also stand when requested? Please note the leader will agree the appointments for the executive councillor for communities. What I don't intend to do, generally at this point, we would read out all the names of the councillors in each committee, but If everyone's agreeable, those names are in the pack, and I think it will save us a bit of time if we don't read out every name. So is everybody okay with that? So just the title of the committee. Okay, thank you, everyone. So Civic Affairs, Information Pack, page 39. Can members of that committee please stand? Now what?
Yeah.
With everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. And because Mike's chair of that, he's not here at the moment.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Do members agree the appointments set out in the agenda? Yep. Silence assumes assent. That concludes the Civic Affairs Committee meeting, and may they all be as quick as that one. Now to the Environment and Community Scrutiny Committee, Information Pack 45 to 47. Can the members of that committee please stand? And please could the Executive Councillors Moore, Collis and Herbert please stand. Does the Scrutiny Committee agree and note the appointments set out in the agenda? Do the Executive Councillors Moore, Collis and Herbert agree the appointments are set out on the agenda? Thank you. That concludes the Environmental and Community Scrutiny Committee meeting. Thank you, everyone. Planning and Transport Scrutiny Committee, page 49 in the packs. Can the committee members of that please stand? Can the Executive Council for Planning, Policy and Transport, Councillor Thornborough, please stand? Oh, she's doing that. Sorry, it's the lighting. Does the Scrutiny Committee agree and note the appointments set out on the agenda? Thank you so much. Does the Executive Councillor agree the appointments set out on the agenda? Thank you very much. And that concludes the Planning and Transport Scrutiny Committee meeting. That takes us to Licensing Committee, Information Pack, page 41. Please, can the committee please stand? Can I remind all members of the Licensing Committee that training on the Council's licensing function is scheduled for Monday, the 14th of June. Do members note the arrangements for the subcommittee and the responsibilities set out in the agenda? Thank you very much. That concludes the Licensing Committee meeting. Thank you. Strategy and Resources Scrutiny Committee, pages 51 to 53 in the information pack. Can the members of that committee please stand? Could the Executive Council for Strategy and External Partnership, Councillor Herbert, and Executive Council for Finance and Resources, Councillor David, please also stand, which you have already done. Does the Scrutiny Committee agree and note the appointments set out on the agenda? Thank you very much. Do the Executive Councillors Herbert and Davey agree that the appointments are set out on that agenda? Thank you very much, and that concludes that meeting as well. Thank you, everyone. That now concludes the annual general meeting. Can members please leave the room just as quickly as they can and be aware of the social distancing and the current rules in practice. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance today. The next council meeting will be Thursday, the 22nd of July. Who knows where we'll be, here or the council chamber? We don't yet know. But thank you, everyone.